What's up, everybody? In this video today, I'm going to be talking about the difference in mindset when I'm cutting versus when I'm bulking and all the decisions I make and all that. You guys have asked me for, for a while what my split is, what I do, this and that. And, that's great. Those questions are great. Personally, those are not high on my list of ideas. It's just not interesting to me to talk about my split or to think about a split or what other people are doing in their split. I feel like splits are one of the most over emphasized and underwhelming concepts in lifting. I feel like a split that works, you make your own split, customized. It doesn't need to be this or that, what you find on the internet. You figure it out yourself. There you go, split. But what I do think is more important is the decision making that you do for your lifting. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what I do when I'm bulking versus cutting. Okay, so when I'm bulking, when I pick a lift, I will usually pick a lift that I know is a good lift, that I have experienced before, that I've done before, and that I know is good. Okay? And when I start a new lift, I usually do it in a higher rep range because use a lighter weight. And during that time, you're still getting these neurological adaptations, motor unit, motor learning. And when you start with a lighter weight, it's called the floor. This is called the floor, right? This is the ceiling, and this is the floor. You start at your floor. And what you do week to week, you just climb the stairs, just climb the stairs, climb the stairs, climb the stairs. And then over the months, you're going to get to your ceiling. And what does that mean? What does that actually mean in practice? What that means is I started 10 reps, 300 pounds, and I add 5 pounds every week, 5 pounds every other week. Maybe I add a rep every week. Maybe I don't. Maybe I just add 5 pounds. And I keep going. 10 reps, 10 reps, 10 reps. And then eventually that becomes 9 reps. 9 reps, and then 8, and then 7. And you get the idea. It's a linear periodization. That's what it is. And that's why I start lower when I'm bulking and I pick an exercise that I know is good and effective and reliable and easy to progress because I want to progress for a long time. I don't want to progress for a week. I don't want to progress for 2 weeks. When I pick a lift, and this is something that maybe you guys don't know because I do so many lifts, when I pick a lift, I stick to that lift and I keep doing it week after week, month after month, until I want to get rid of it. Deload, throw it away. That's how it works. I don't change lifts every week. I don't do conjugate. I don't do that. I do not do that. I pick a lift, I stick with it. So when I'm bulking, obviously as I'm gaining weight, I'm going to pick the lift that I think is the most reliable. And there's always more than one lift. There's always a lot of lifts that you can pick that are good. But I pick the ones that I know are good. All right? Now, contrast that with cutting, which I'm doing right now. When I'm cutting and losing weight and not building muscle and not building strength, even though you are improving, your performance goes up week to week. If you're cutting correctly, your performance should be going up to week. It shouldn't be going down if you know what you're doing. I pick lifts that I don't know are great, that I don't have experience with, that I don't understand. Lifts that I have maybe never done before, and I want to experiment. But why is that? Why do I pick lifts that I don't know are good for cutting? Well, I'll tell you why. And this is something that I see a lot of people quote unquote mess up when they do cuts. They'll take all the lifts that they were doing when they were bulking. They will take all the weights that they were doing when they were bulking. They will take all the rep ranges they were doing when they were bulking, and they will just keep trying to do that while they lose weight. So the weights and the reps that they were struggling with when they're gaining weight and getting stronger, they're trying to replicate that process when they're losing weight and getting weaker. Do you see the counterintuitiveness of that approach? All right. Like you take your bench and you do 300 pounds, I don't know, for 5 reps, 6 reps when you're bulking. And then you start losing weight. And you come into your workout and you put 300 pounds on the bar and you try to hit 7 reps when you're losing weight. Does that sound logical or successful or anything intelligent about that approach? And that's the approach that many people default to when they're cutting weight. They don't even think to change anything when they're losing weight. And that's why I pick new lifts that I haven't done before. You know why? Because there is no preconceived standard. There is no expectation. I have to lift this much weight. I have to do this many reps. I can do whatever weight I want, whatever rep range I want, whatever. I can do whatever I want. And that's so great. And that is so relieving in terms of psychology, because lifting is psychological, and there's psychological stress to lifting as well as physical cortisol inducing stress, right? And that psychological stress also induces cortisols and cytokines and all that. Anyway, but there's no point in stressing yourself out when you're lifting. It's stupid. Stress is one of the biggest killers of muscle growth and strength. Stress. You need to lower your stress, and that includes psychological stress. So that's why you pick lifts that are a little bit lighter and a little bit lighter initially, higher rep range initially because of the motor learning that we talked about earlier in this video. Because of neurological adaptations, you're going to make these easy gains. You're going to make easy gains for the first several weeks. If you're newer, maybe even several months, especially with a new movement that you've never done before. But about the experimentation part, this is important. This ties in to a planned model because everything I do is planned. Everything I do is thought out. I'm a very cerebral lifter, if you guys didn't know. I don't do things just to do things. There's always a reason. There's always an explanation in my head. Why I do this, why I do that. I don't do stupid movements. You guys think, oh, these idiot curls are stupid, this or that. No, they're actually very thought out. Everything I do is thought out. It's either based on heuristics, which is anecdotes, which is practice, which is experience. It's also thought about from theory and from biomechanics and from torque, physics, you name it. It's all tied in. Experience, theory, all of it. So when I'm cutting, I actually brainstorm these lifts the whole time. Even when I'm bulking, like I told you, I pick a lift and I stick to it. But during that time, I hypothesize, what about this lift? What if I did this? What if I did that? But I don't do this and I don't do that when I'm already doing this right here in front of me. This lift that I decided to do in my bulk, I'm doing this lift. I'll change it out eventually for another lift. But in the meantime, I have this bucket list, a catalog of hypotheticals. I could hypothetically do this, I could hypothetically do that. But you can't do everything at the same time. You can't do strength training and hypertrophy training and power training and endurance training all at the same time. But what if I did this? What if I did that? You can't do that. That's not how programming works. That's not how progression works. That's not how successful lifting works. So when I'm cutting and I don't have any goals about getting bigger, stronger, just maintaining muscle, I pick lifts that I think are good. And I experiment. If that lift is good, I'm going to do it while I'm cutting. Maybe I'll swap it out after a meso, after a block, and then I'll do another lift that I think might be good. Because you stall out faster when you're cutting, obviously losing weight. You're going to stall faster on lifts. You're going to burn out psychologically faster. And as you go down in reps, you're going to plateau faster with lower reps when you're cutting versus when you're bulking. Because when you're cutting, your muscle fibers, you have intermediate muscle fibers that like to shift. When you're bulking and you're anabolic, they shift towards faster twitch muscle fibers, and when you're cutting and losing and catabolic, they flip to slower twitch muscle fibers, endurance muscle fibers that are not good for producing force, but they are good for doing reps. That's why when people cut, their low rep bench press weights go down week to week, month to month, but their high rep bench sets, 12 reps, 15 reps, maybe more, they go up. They can add a rep to those light weights, but they can't add a rep to those heavy weights. There's a bunch of factors, but that muscle fiber flipping is a factor. That's one factor. And that's why when you cut, you pick lifts that are not externally very heavy. You pick lifts, as a rule of thumb, when you're cutting, that are less taxing physically on your body because you have less recovery resources, because you're cutting, because you're starving yourself. Especially when you get really lean, you're starving yourself. That's what you're doing. Your body does not have resources to throw the kitchen sink of any lift that you like. No, you got to be very strategic, and that's why people fail with cuts. They aren't strategic. They aren't calculated. They do their kitchen sink approach, which they did when they were bulking, which worked because they were throwing the kitchen sink in terms of calories, which they can't do when they're cutting, and it doesn't work anymore. And that's why when I'm cutting, you'll see me using less weight relatively. I will do exercises that don't use as much weight, either because they're lighter exercises or because the rep range is higher. And I don't go much higher between bulking and cutting. I might do eights bulking, I might do eights cutting. I might do tens bulking, I might do tens cutting. But as a generality, lighter bulking, heavier cut. No, heavier bulking, lighter cutting. And then this is where they tie into the plan progression. After doing bulking and you start cutting and you experiment with these other lifts, you will find lifts that you like. You'll find lifts that you don't like. You'll find lifts that you like. You throw away the ones you don't like. You don't keep them around for the next bulk. But the ones that you do like, you're going to save those. You're going to save those in your catalog, your little catalog. And when you start bulking, you're going to throw them back in eventually. And then if they were really good, you're going to progress them the way I talked about, with the linear progression, the linear periodization, starting lighter, incrementally adding more reps. And if you can't add reps, you add weight. And if your weight goes up week after week, month after month, your reps go down like this. And in contrast to that linear periodization, when you're cutting, at the start of the cut, you're stronger and you have more energy and all of that. So you can start with exercises that are heavier. But as you go week to week, month to month, and you take a deload after, you feel like you're beat up, what you can do, what I do sometimes, is I'll take that same lift, I'll lighten the weight, and I'll do a higher rep range. I'll go from 10 reps to a 15 rep top set, same lift. Could be a different lift, could be the same lift. And I'll just stay in that higher rep range for that block or a meso. This is called reverse linear periodization. There's linear that goes up like this, and there's reverse linear that goes down like this. Lower weights, higher reps. You start higher weights, lower reps, and you go down to lower weight, higher reps. Contrast to linear periodization. It doesn't matter for bodybuilding. Linear periodization, reverse linear, it just matters what's appropriate in that moment for you. Okay? Nothing convoluted. So I'll take these lifts, I do cutting, I do them relatively lighter, higher reps, and when I come back to bulking, and I like these lifts. I like Dr. Idiot curls. I like these machine dips. I like so many lifts, these pec deck lifts that I've been doing. They're all great. They're they're all great. And all these lifts that I've experimented with, these crossbody, lat pullovers, right? They're all great, and I'm gonna do them when I'm bulking. But I don't do those when I'm bulking because I'm doing lifts that I already knew were good. I'm doing lifts that were already good. And now that I know that these lifts are good because I experimented while cutting and wasn't burying myself with the other lifts and trying to hit PRs on these lifts, I can do those lifts on my bulk. And they're great lifts. And this time I'm going to progress even better because I'm bulking and I'm not cutting. And I'm going to build muscle, actual muscle, instead of trying to not lose muscle. And then I'm going to do that, and I'm going to finish bulking, and I'm going to cut, and I'm going to try new stuff that I also brainstormed. I already have ideas. I have plenty of ideas. And that's my mindset when I decide what I'm going to do, rep range, weight, exercise, cutting versus bulking. Bulking, you do what works, what you know that works. Cutting, you do what might work, what you want to do. And then if you like it, you keep it. If you don't, you don't. That's it. That's all. That's how my mindset works. Nothing convoluted. I'm going to talk to you guys in another video later.